week 5 this week on Squarebody build.
Yeah, so this week we're actually going to get to start some of the fun stuff. So we're actually going to get to start chopping on this frame, get the C-notch put in, and to get this thing painted, and we're going to pretty much be ready to go back together with some of the suspension.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. The really sad thing about this is if we really mess this up, there is nowhere to get another frame.
So that could be a disaster, or it could be
good.
good.
And we'll just have to see how it goes. Anyway, so we hit the gym first thing this morning, and we're both pretty hungry. So I think we're going to go in the house and cook some lunch before we actually get started on this thing today.
Oh yeah, so we're going to go get some food, and we'll catch you guys in a bit.
What we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and get this thing up on some jack stands and go ahead and get ready to start cutting for this C-notch. We're very limited on time this week, so who really knows how much we're going to get done.
And maybe a short video, or we can make it pretty long. It depends on how this week goes. Don't worry about the background. My dad's here working on his truck. I'll be bouncing back and forth from here to help him and all this. So
yeah, so we'll get this thing on jack stands and yeah, we're going to get ready to start cutting on this thing. Alright, so this is a C-notch. So what this is, I actually have to notch out part of the frame to make room for the axle, since we're actually doing an axle flip to drop it back into this truck. So this is just going to create some room inside the frame for the travel of the rear end. This bolts in where I make that cut so that the frame is actually still rigid and it keeps the frame strong and all of that good stuff. I've never done one of these before, so I'm not even going to lie to you guys, I am extremely nervous, because if I mess up the cut on this frame, I can't get another frame, because you just don't see many of these crew cab square bodies anymore. So, that being said, I'm terrified. Well, let's do it anyway, I guess. Just kidding. If it seems like I'm stalling, it's because I am. I'm scared to death. No, just kidding. Alright, so what we're going to do now, while we actually have a chance, before we get to this, I actually need to go and lock down the deal on the Cummins for this truck. So, we're about to make a road trip and go get that deal locked in, and then we'll come back and we'll actually cut this frame. So, let's take a road trip. So we are headed back to the shop now. We came over and checked out this Cummins. What you think?
It's not 12 valve, but
it's not a 12 valve. Turns out it's a 24 valve. However, how many miles does it have originally?
It's got 59,535 miles on it.
Not even 60,000 original miles. So we're going to be coming back on Friday. It won't be in this episode. It'll be in next week's episode. You'll see it. But we'll be coming back and picking up the truck, bringing it back to our shop. We're going to pull the engine at our shop and then actually deliver the body back to this guy. So So yeah, on Friday we're gonna be coming and picking up our engine. We're gonna be pretty well ready to put this thing on the frame, and
almost go time.
we going back together, boy. Won't be long now. All right, so got the frame set up. I went ahead and leveled this thing front to rear and got everything adjusted. It's actually level left and right too. So I have the rear end under there. It's on those dollies so I can move it back and forth. So with the axle flip, what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna take these springs and they're gonna go on the bottom side of that axle. You can actually see the spring perch here where they used to sit, and actually the axle was on the bottom of those springs and the spring actually sat here. But what it's gonna do now is these are gonna go underneath the rear end instead. And you've got these little brackets here. They have this hole cut so that they actually go over the top of that bolt and nut that holds all the springs together. The way it's looking right now, I think that the hole in these brackets may be toward the front. I'm not sure. It may be that way, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put these springs underneath there and hang them by a couple of bolts. And then we will figure out kind of where this thing's gonna go before we mark the frame and get ready to cut. So here we go. All right, so some of y'all may remember we had issues with the bushing bolts in these springs. We weren't able to get the bolt out because it was froze up inside those bushings. So what we ended up doing, we ended up cutting it off to get the spring out. Well, now I need to hang the spring back in there. So I'm gonna have to get this thing out so I can bolt it in there. And that way I can get an actual location of where this rear end's gonna sit. So I've got a punch. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. If it doesn't, we'll figure something else out. But I'm about to try to drive this thing out of here. So see what happens. Okay, so driving it out with a punch is not working. So what I'm probably gonna end up doing for now is actually just go ahead and hang the back half of the spring in the bracket with a bolt and then actually set the rear end on it like it's supposed to be and all that good stuff. And then I'll just take my jack and just jack the front part of the spring up, because really and truly the pinion of the rear end doesn't have to be correct for me to get this marking. So what I may do is just go ahead and jack those up and set it where it's supposed to be, and then I'll figure out where the center mark of my rear end housing is, and then I'll go ahead and use my level to get a mark on the frame, and then I'll make my marks based off of that. So, I guess let's see if that'll work. Here we go. All right, guys, so as you can see behind me, I went ahead and stuck the rear end under the frame, and I went ahead and put the leaf springs back in place underneath the rear end. I mounted the shackle on the back. I just stuck a bolt through it, just put it back in its original place. With the bolts being frozen up inside the leaf spring bushing, I wasn't able to get those out. So what I did, I just stuck a jack under them, jacked it up until they were centered in their mount hole. So I'm kind of have a general idea of where they go. So now what I've done is I've actually found the center point of the axle tube, and I took a level and lined it up there and got it level, got it straight, and marked the center point of the housing on the rear end. So what I'm going to do from there is I'm actually going to find the center point of my C-notch, stick it up there, line that up, and then I'm going to mark out the C-notch so that I can go ahead and cut it out with my cutting wheel, and then we'll just trim a little bit at a time until we get it to fit. So once we do that, be able to stick that thing in, get it bolted in, and then the nerve-wracking part's over with. So I guess we're going to start getting ready to cut some stuff. All right, so that you guys can see a little more of what I was talking about. I went ahead, I stuck a bolt in there in the shackle, so the shackle's in place. Right here, there's that mount hole where I lined up the bolt in place of where it actually used to mount. So, right here, you can see that I found the center point of the leaf spring pad there on top of the axle housing. So what I did is I took my little level here and I stuck it on the axle tube and lined it up with that center mark. Came up here until it was level-ish, and then I marked it there on the frame. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna find the center point of my C-notch, hold it up there on that mark, and we're gonna go ahead and line this thing out so that we can start cutting on this frame. All right, so I'm back out here in the shop this morning on the second day of getting ready to C-notch this frame. So yesterday, you know, we rode and we made the deal on the Cummins engine and all of that good stuff. Came back, and then I moved the rear end in here, got the springs in place and all that. So I haven't cut anything yet. I spent some time out here last night just kind of taking a look, and found out that the C-notch kit that I ordered, I believe it's only good for a C10 or a C15. So started looking around and found that on these C30s, the frame in front of the rear end actually starts to widen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna modify the C-notch kit just a little bit to make it work. I have found that the C-notch kits that they sell for this truck don't actually box the entire frame in, and they only box in the C-notch portion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this thing to where I can use that top bend that they actually put on this kit, so I can actually wrap the top of the frame, but I can utilize the C-notch that's there, and I can actually put this thing in place and still actually it be functional and not have to buy another kit. So we are about to find the center point for our C-notch. We're gonna get that marked out, and we're gonna get this this kit modified best we can and see if we can't get this thing set in. So here we go. So I got the little tab cut off of the C-notch kit, and I believe that's gonna work. Hopefully, I guess we'll see. So now, I mean, we're basically ready to line this thing up on the frame and go ahead and start cutting the C-notch out to get ready to actually put this bracket in. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna drop this rear end out from under here, roll it out of the back of the truck, and start cutting. You can see all these different marks I made. Ended up finding out that that one right there was the center point. So before I can actually cut this out, I've got to go inside the frame rails and actually cut these rivets off so I can pop those factory bump stops off. We're gonna start getting this thing cut. One thing I did fail to mention, before you actually cut these C-notches out, you want to make sure your frame is level, which I mentioned previously, but what you want to do is you want to support the back of your frame All I did, I just took my jacks and put under there, and I've just got the least amount of pressure on the frame. That way I'm not lifting it, it's not able to fall, anything like that. So we're gonna get these rivets cut out, and we're about to C-notch this thing. So as you can see, we've got this side notched and the bracket is in a nice tight fit here in the notch. So where I had to modify this was on those bottom tabs. I wasn't able to get those to fit over the frame on either side actually, so I actually ended up cutting this one off too. I'm still going to try to put those back in a way to where I can use them, but we'll see. You see right here, I'm going to have to add in some of that one should come down. I'm going to try to do something here. Right there, the C-notch actually fits nicely against that bottom side of the frame, so I'm going to go ahead and weld this up whenever I actually bolt this in and all that good stuff. So, yep, not too bad. Took a little bit of time, but I measured like 500 times before I ever did anything, so yeah, we got a good fit, so I'm happy with that. Guys, as much as I would love to continue this episode right now, it's getting some pretty serious weather right here. There's a lot of lightning going on. We're actually under a tornado warning at the moment. So, smartest thing for me to do is to get out of the shop and actually go in the house. So we're gonna call it for now, and me and my boys here are gonna go inside where it's a little more sturdy, and we're gonna hold up in there for just a little bit. So hopefully this weather gets out of here pretty soon and I can get back out here and get the other side done or start fabbing up this side. So I really hope to get the frame painted this week, but today's gonna be the last day that I have to work on it this week, so I don't know if we're gonna get that far or not. If not, it is what it is, but we're gonna have to call it for now. Hopefully we'll be back in a few minutes, but we'll see. All right, so weather chilled out a little bit, so I'm back, finally. Took that little bit of time to make some breakfast. Some nice little pancakes and sausage and a couple eggs. We're good to go, got some energy now. So, we're gonna get back on this. I'm gonna go ahead and drill out these holes in the C-notch, go ahead and get some bolts in this thing, and start figuring out what I'm gonna have to do to add in those little pieces of metal to put underneath the frame. So, I'm gonna get that squared away and move on to the next side. So, let's do this. All right, guys, so we got this thing fitting here pretty nice. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and center punch each of these mounting holes for the bolt and go ahead and get that drilled out. And then I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna go ahead and modify this thing to where it actually looks like I didn't really cut a whole lot out. So we're gonna try to make that look a little bit better. before the final fit. So we're gonna get that done, and then we'll move over to the other side. So let's get the ball rolling on this. Not one thing, it's gonna be another. So what you just watched me do was I started with a really small bit at a high speed and went ahead and cut through the frame, and then I was stepping up. My step to the last, you saw that my bit caught and actually twisted the drill in my hand. So what happened was the cutting edge of that bit actually got caught in the frame, and it broke the cutting edge off of the bit. So now my bit actually won't even cut anymore. So as you can see, I'm kind of at a standstill right there until I grab another bit. So I've got to find a bit that's close to that size. I think I have another one, so that I can get going again and go ahead and get these holes cut out before I cut out the next size up. Why would it stop with the bit? Go ahead and find a bit, replace the one that took a crap on me, and my drill decides to take a crap too. So drill motor works fine. However, now the chuck has decided to freeze up and I can't get the dang drill bit out of there. But the plastic part that's on the chuck spins freely. So I've tried vice grips, I have tried channel locks, I've tried everything, and I cannot get it loose. So I guess now we will take another break and figure out what we're gonna do now. So be back with you in a few. All right, so my DeWalt drill went kaput. It's done. The chuck is completely stripped, so there will be no using that anymore. So drove over here to Mariana and grabbed another drill. Figured I would give these Bauer drills from Harbor Freight a shot. We'll see, I don't know. They seem well made. So anyway, I'm gonna get back to the house, try to finish drilling out these mount holes, and get the C-notch wrapped up on the driver's side of the frame. And hopefully I have enough time to go ahead and knock out the passenger side as well today. I don't know, we'll just have to see. I really wanted to get to the point of painting that thing, but at this point I just don't see it happening. So anyway, well, we're headed back to the shop. We're gonna get back, get to work on that, and see just how far we can get. So see you guys soon. All right, so we're finally back in the shop, and we are back in business thanks to Harbor Freight and their Bauer line of power tools. So we're about to get back to work on this C-notch here. If you want to check out a review on this product here, I'm going to do another video reviewing this. So yeah, so let's get back to work and try to get this thing knocked out. So since it's taken all day to get a good start. Anyway, here we go. right, so far so good on the new Bauer drill. Unfortunately, it didn't send those batteries with a full charge, so I'm gonna have to let the batteries charge for a little bit. So anyway, in all honesty, the thing feels better made than my DeWalt did. It is what it is. Sometimes more expensive isn't better. I mean, I guess we'll see how the thing holds up in the long run, but it is what it is. What I'm gonna do while those charge is I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the edges where I made the cuts and all that good stuff, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut the pieces and weld those to the C-notch and do the metal work that I have to do, get that cleaned up. And then I'll come back, finish drilling the holes out, and then I'll weld what I have to weld. So I'm gonna get to work on that, and we'll come back and drill these holes out and get it finished up later. Not been a good day for me. I've had camera issues, so I didn't get to video the whole modification process of the C-notch. So I'm going to take now to show you guys what I've done and what I have. So right here, this is the part where it was short, so I actually went and I cut those tabs that I took off and welded it in, and actually lengthened that out so that it reaches the frame rail. And so I'll be actually welding up this seam right here, and that way it's secure to the frame. Did the same thing here. I lengthened this side out, so I put that tab in right there to drop that down. And so yeah, we now have a finished C-notch. I'm being called into work, so I'm not going to be able to finish this project. I'll be home on Friday, so I'll be able to work on it then maybe. But this is as far as we're gonna get this week, guys. Unfortunately, we were cut short with time constraints, things like that, and things just didn't go our way. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll work on the episode next week, and hopefully we'll get a lot further. I apologize again that we're kind of held back with a few things, but we appreciate you guys tuning in every week. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you know when we post, and we'll get a lot further next week, maybe, if everything goes right. So see you guys then. Safety first, ladies.